Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the 5-Star Review. 5-Star here. Hadn't seen you since last year. So Happy New Year. It's 2010. So you know we're gonna do great things. Now what we're gonna discuss today is the truth about Islam and Arab terrorists. The truth about Islam and Arab terrorists. I think this is a timely discussion. And so let's get started. Now, first of all, let me start by saying, here at the 5-Star Review, we don't believe in bashing anyone's religion. I myself am of the Muslim persuasion, so I am not here to bash anyone's religion. However, I am here to tell the truth. Now, the truth. Oh, how the truth is a foreign thing. Where has the truth gone? Will it ever come back to us? These are the questions that we're going to be finding answers to, and we're going to bring them to you. So now, back to the topic of discussion. Islam, as we all view it today, most people from the West and the United States, when we think of Islam, we typically think of an Arab. Why? Because Arabs are typically seen as the spokesman for the religion. Much like in Christianity, Europeans, be them of Catholic persuasion, others are seen as the spokesman for the Christian religion. Now, the problem with this in Islam is that it's the view of the religion and how it's connected to the view of Arab terrorists. When most of us here in America think of Islam, we typically think of an Arab terrorist or a terrorist of Arab persuasion. Now, this is a negative view of Islam. Now, I understand that the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, was of Arab persuasion, so Arabs are looked at as a spokesman. Those of us who are recent converts to the religion typically will look toward the Arabs or Muslims in the Arab community to bring understanding to the religion. This was the case at one time, but today this is not. And what drew me to the religion was peace. It gave me peace. However, when we look at the situation today in the Muslim world and with Arab terrorists, we see nothing but destruction. So let me start off by saying that the Quran explicitly says that just because a person was born or raised in a religion does not give that person one up on a Johnny-come-lately or recent convert to the religion. So because you were born or raised doesn't give you one up or better understanding of the religion than a recent convert. With that being said, I say that the religion of Islam, or the best understanding of the religion of Islam, is now being explained in America. And we're going to get through to that in a second in terms of why I say that. Because one thing about Allah is, if He makes you a spokesman for a religion or a doctrine, and you fail to do your job in terms of carrying out His wishes, He doesn't waste His time with you. He builds up other spokesmen who comes along with the message. And so while we are all captured by the machinations of Al-Qaeda, we need to understand this. They are not, and they don't articulate what is Islam. Now, we all understand their influence. Now, this is confusing. the influence that they have throughout the Muslim world is confusing, because you have a lot of Muslims in the Arab world who sit by and do nothing, while Al-Qaeda destroys their children, destroys their future, and kill others all around the world. Now, this is not Islam. And we all, and those of us who have studied Islam and the history of Islam, know that Islam, at its height, during the age of faith, Europeans might call it their Middle Ages, but it was Islam's age of faith, brought gifts to the world. And we need to recapture that and go back and understand what they did when Islam was at its height, and bring forth that back to humanity so that they can stop being the killers and destroyers of Islam and their children's future, and then begin to lift up and do the right thing. We all understand, and we can recall the Moors of Spain who ruled from 711 to 1492, or Al-Jabbar, who brought the world algebra, or the city of Timbuktu, who was at one time the center of learning. These people were Muslims, but they were black men. Now, I only say this because it shows you that God will choose different spokesmen or different groups to shine the light on Islam to the rest of the world. But these men have all been killed off, and now Islam is looked at as, or we look to the Arabs as being the spokesman to Islam. But here is the problem. We're not getting any guidance from the predominant community in the Arab world, because the problem is, too often the society is set up on monarchic rule, sitting on all that oil, and the general population has helped very little. And the last that I heard, Ahmed Didat was the only person to actually put that in context. But here at the 5-Star Review, we seek to update it and bring it into the light of day, in this day, in 2010. And that's what we're going to do. So as these suicide bombers run around and kill innocent women, children, and babies, hollering Allahu Akbar, we need to understand the complicit nature that the predominant Muslim population play in keeping all this stuff going. It reminds me of the Ku Klux Klan and how they used Christianity as a shield, or to justify the violence that they use to keep people from practicing their basic inalienable rights as Americans. And thank God you had some of those in the community to say stop. And when the community stood up and said stop, it stopped. But you had some of those who went along with the KKK, or didn't necessarily do anything to stop the KKK, and they were just as guilty as the KKK. And God would destroy them like they did the KKK, much as God is destroying the predominant Muslim community, because they're sitting by watching their babies not being able to sit down on a nice Sunday afternoon and listen to the beauty of Allah and the birds and the trees and the oceans, because they have to listen to some bomb going off in the background of some Arab terrorist that their family community refuses to come in and stop. I say, you gotta stop. And the truth is, that is not what God intended Islam to be. Islam is peace. Stop robbing your children of their future, robbing your children of peace, robbing your children of really knowing what Allah is. Sit down and talk to people. That's not a jihad. Sit down and talk. Nobody's oppressing you. You're crazy. And at some point, Allah is going to wipe you from the face of the earth, because Islam is peace and not war, hell, and destruction. And that is the truth. 5-Star out.